There are certain things a man can do that have nothing to do with expensive gifts, perfect looks, or rehearsed romantic words, yet they can leave a lasting impression on a woman's heart. And that's what makes them so powerful. Because real attraction is rarely created by one spectacular moment. More often, it grows quietly through the small things a man does consistently. The way he listens, the way he speaks, the way he carries himself, the way he handles pressure, the way he treats her dreams, the way he respects her freedom, the way he makes her laugh, the way he takes care of himself, and perhaps most importantly, the way he makes her feel when she is simply being herself. Think about the kind of woman who can walk into a room and somehow change the atmosphere without trying. Maybe you've experienced that before. You saw her smile and suddenly your attention went straight toward her. You heard her voice and remembered it later. You found yourself thinking about her when she wasn't around. There was something about her presence that stayed with you. Now imagine being the man who creates that same emotional experience for the woman he cares about. Not by manipulating her, not by playing games, not by pretending to be someone you're not, but by developing the qualities that create trust, respect, emotional depth, and genuine connection. Because if you're looking for a lasting relationship, the goal shouldn't be to make someone obsessed with you. The goal should be to become the kind of man whose character naturally creates a relationship worth staying in. Old Stoic wisdom has always placed enormous value on self-mastery. Control your reactions. Strengthen your character. Choose your actions carefully. Don't allow temporary emotions to control permanent decisions. And those principles can be incredibly valuable when it comes to relationships. So let's explore the subtle behaviors that can create a deeper bond between a man and a woman. The first is something that sounds incredibly simple, but very few people actually master it. Listen to her. Really listen. There is a massive difference between hearing someone's words and actually paying attention to what they're trying to communicate. You can hear every sentence someone says and still completely miss the person behind those words. Real listening requires presence. It requires patience. It requires putting your need to immediately respond aside for a moment. Imagine she comes to you after a difficult day. She's frustrated. Maybe something happened at work. Maybe someone disappointed her. Maybe she's worried about something she hasn't told anyone else. She begins explaining what happened. And instead of immediately saying, here's what you should do, you simply stay with her. You let her finish. You ask questions. You pay attention to her tone. You notice the parts of the story that seem difficult for her to talk about. You don't rush her. You don't mock her. You don't turn the conversation into a story about yourself. You're simply present. That kind of attention can create a feeling of safety that is difficult to replace. Because sometimes people don't need a solution. They need to know that someone is willing to sit with them while they process what they're feeling. There will be moments when advice is necessary, of course. But not every emotional conversation is a problem waiting to be fixed. Sometimes the greatest thing you can offer is understanding. You can say, tell me more. What happened after that? I can understand why that bothered you. That sounds difficult. I'm here. Simple words, but when they come from a sincere place, they carry weight. And then there's something even more powerful. Remembering. Maybe she mentioned something important about her childhood. Maybe she told you about a goal she's afraid to pursue. Maybe she was nervous about an upcoming event. Maybe she casually mentioned something that she loves. And weeks later, you remember. You ask her about it. You bring it up naturally. Suddenly she realizes something. You weren't just waiting for your turn to speak. You were paying attention. You remembered because she mattered. That's the kind of connection that cannot be manufactured with expensive gifts. A small detail, remembered at the right moment, can mean more than something extravagant. It tells her, I see you. I hear you. I remember you. And that's why listening is a form of strength. You don't need to dominate every conversation to prove you're confident. You don't need to have the answer to everything. Sometimes the strongest man in the room is the one who can remain quiet long enough to truly understand another person. That's emotional discipline. That's presence. And that's one of the foundations of genuine intimacy. There is another incredibly small behavior that can create a surprisingly personal connection. Say her name with warmth. A person's name isn't just a collection of sounds. It's connected to their identity. It's something they've heard throughout their entire life. So when someone they care about says their name with genuine affection, it can feel different from ordinary conversation. Think about the difference between saying, come here, and saying, Come here, Emily. The second one feels more personal, not because there's some magic formula behind it, but because you're acknowledging the individual. You're not speaking to a crowd, you're speaking to her. Imagine she is nervous about something and you look at her and say, Sarah, you're going to be okay. Her name becomes part of the reassurance. Or maybe you're teasing her in a playful moment. Come on, Jessica. You know exactly what you're doing. She smiles. The name becomes connected to the emotion of that moment. That's what makes it meaningful. But don't turn this into a manipulation technique. Don't repeat her name constantly because you think it will make her attracted to you. That's not the point. The point is presence. When you say her name naturally and sincerely, you're communicating attention. You're telling her that you recognize her, that she isn't invisible, that she isn't simply another person passing through your life. And think about how you feel when someone you care about says your name with genuine warmth. You feel acknowledged. You feel noticed. You feel valued. The same thing happens for her. Sometimes intimacy doesn't come from complicated conversations. It comes from these tiny moments of recognition. And those moments accumulate. One conversation, one smile, one remembered detail, one affectionate use of her name, one moment where she realizes you're completely present. That's how emotional connection becomes stronger. But there is something else that makes a man deeply attractive, and it has nothing to do with trying to dominate anyone. It's the ability to stand firmly within yourself. True masculinity isn't arrogant, it isn't aggression, it isn't emotional coldness, and it certainly isn't controlling a woman. Real masculine strength is responsibility. It's discipline. It's courage. It's integrity. It's the ability to remain calm when circumstances become difficult. It's knowing what you stand for. It's having direction. It's taking ownership of your life instead of constantly blaming the world for your circumstances. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus emphasized the importance of focusing on what is within your control. You cannot control everything that happens to you, but you can work on controlling your response. That principle changes everything. Because imagine two men facing the same difficult situation. One immediately loses his temper. He becomes defensive. He blames everyone around him. He reacts emotionally and regrets his words later. The other man takes a breath. He thinks. He decides what needs to be done. And then he acts. Which man appears more stable? Which man would people naturally trust during a difficult moment? Strength isn't always loud. Sometimes strength is calm. Sometimes strength is the ability to remain steady when everyone else is reacting. A man who has mastered himself doesn't need constant validation. He doesn't need everyone to approve of him. He doesn't need to prove his worth every 5 minutes. He has goals. He has responsibilities. He has values. He has a life. And he continues developing himself whether someone is watching or not. That's important. Because a relationship should add to your life, not become the only thing your life contains. You can love a woman deeply and still have your own ambitions. You can care about her deeply and still maintain friendships. You can be committed to her and still work on yourself. You can build a relationship without abandoning your identity. That's healthy confidence. And when a man has that kind of inner stability, he doesn't need to control the woman beside him. He can trust her. He can communicate. He can establish boundaries. He can disagree without becoming threatening. He can remain composed without becoming emotionally distant. That's real strength. And strength becomes even more attractive when a man knows how to laugh. Never underestimate the power of shared laughter. You don't have to be a professional comedian. You don't need to have a joke prepared every time you see her. You simply need to know how to enjoy the moment. Maybe she tells you something ridiculous. Maybe she makes a terrible joke. Maybe she says something completely unexpected. If it genuinely makes you laugh, laugh. Don't hold it back. And don't fake it either. Authenticity matters. The point isn't to convince her that everything she says is hilarious. The point is to create an environment where both of you can relax enough to be yourselves. There is something incredibly attractive about being around someone who makes you feel free. Free to laugh, free to be silly, free to make a mistake, free to say something strange without immediately being judged. When you laugh together, the emotional walls begin to come down. You stop performing. You stop trying to appear perfect. You're simply two people enjoying a moment together. And those moments become memories. Years later, you may not remember every serious conversation you had, but you may remember the night you both laughed for 20 minutes about something completely ridiculous. You may remember the inside joke that nobody else understood. You may remember dancing around the kitchen. You may remember laughing in the car until your stomach hurt. Those moments become part of the emotional history of a relationship. And that's why laughter matters. It's not simply entertainment, it's connection. It says, we enjoy being together. And that feeling is incredibly valuable. But there is another foundation that cannot be skipped: respect. Without respect, attraction eventually becomes unstable. A woman wants to know that the man beside her recognizes her as a complete human being. She has thoughts, she has goals, she has opinions, she has boundaries, she has ambitions, she has her own identity. You don't have to agree with everything she says. But disagreement doesn't give you permission to humiliate her. Being angry doesn't give you permission to insult her. Being disappointed doesn't give you permission to control her. Respect means that even when emotions are high, you remember that the person in front of you has dignity. And respect isn't only something you say, it's something you demonstrate. Do you listen when she disagrees with you? Do you take her ambitions seriously? Do you respect her time? Do you respect her boundaries? Do you speak about her with dignity when she's not around? Do you support her independence? Do you want her to become stronger, or do you secretly want her to depend on you for everything? Those questions reveal character. A healthy relationship isn't one person standing above the other. It's two people standing beside each other. You don't need to put her on a pedestal, and she doesn't need to put you on one either. You simply recognize each other's value. That's mature love. And there's another important truth. Respect has to be mutual. You shouldn't accept disrespect simply because you're afraid of losing someone. You shouldn't demand respect while refusing to give it. A strong relationship requires both people to understand that love and dignity belong together. When a woman realizes that a man respects her even when he's angry, that tells her something about his character. Because anyone can be kind when everything is easy. Character becomes visible when things become difficult. And respect naturally leads to another powerful quality: the ability to give space without creating unnecessary drama. This is something insecure people often struggle with. They believe that constant contact equals love. They believe that if someone doesn't respond immediately, something must be wrong. They believe that needing time alone means rejection. But that's not always true. Sometimes people need space simply because they're human. Maybe she has had a long day. Maybe she needs time with her friends. Maybe she wants to focus on work. Maybe she simply needs an evening alone. A confident man doesn't immediately turn that into a crisis. He doesn't start interrogating her. He doesn't create jealousy. He doesn't intentionally disappear to punish her. He simply understands. Take your time. Enjoy yourself. We'll talk later. That kind of response communicates security. It says, I trust you. And I don't lose myself when we're apart. Healthy independence isn't the enemy of love. It can actually strengthen love. Two people who have their own lives can come together because they genuinely want to, not because they're terrified of being alone. That's an important distinction. But remember, giving space doesn't mean ignoring someone, and it doesn't mean playing games. Don't disappear for days because you want her to chase you. Don't withdraw affection as punishment. Don't create distance just to test whether she cares. That's manipulation. Healthy space is different. It's based on trust. It's based on freedom. It's based on the understanding that love doesn't require two people to be physically connected every second. When you can give someone room without becoming insecure, you demonstrate emotional maturity. And sometimes that freedom allows people to appreciate each other even more. Because when you don't try to possess someone, the relationship becomes a choice. And love is much more meaningful when two people freely choose each other. That same principle of support appears when it comes to her dreams. A woman may tell you about a dream she has been carrying quietly for years. Maybe she wants to start something of her own. Maybe she wants to study. Maybe she wants to change careers. Maybe she wants to travel. Maybe she wants to create something. Maybe the people around her have already told her that she isn't capable. And then she tells you. That moment matters. Because sharing a dream can make someone vulnerable. She's not only telling you what she wants, she's also revealing what she fears. She may be wondering, will you laugh at me? Will you think this is unrealistic? Will you tell me I can't do it? Imagine instead looking at her and saying, I believe you can. Those words can become incredibly powerful. Supporting her doesn't mean blindly agreeing with everything. You can still be honest. You can still help her think through the details. You can ask, what would the first step be? What do you need? How can I help? What's stopping you? That's partnership. You aren't simply applauding from the sidelines. You're standing beside her. And when she succeeds, you're proud. You don't feel threatened by her achievements. You don't think her growth somehow makes you smaller. You understand that her success doesn't diminish your own value. In a healthy relationship, two people can become stronger together. Sometimes support is simply reminding someone who they are when they temporarily forget. You've worked too hard to give up now. I know you're tired, but keep going. One difficult day doesn't erase everything you've accomplished. Those words matter. And if you genuinely love someone, you should want their life to expand. You shouldn't want to make them smaller so you can feel bigger. You should want them to become more fully themselves. And while serious support matters, a relationship also needs something much lighter. Fun. You cannot build a beautiful relationship entirely out of serious conversations. Sometimes you need to forget the pressure of life and simply enjoy each other's company. Take a spontaneous drive. Cook something together. Go somewhere neither of you has visited. Play a game. Try something new. Take a walk. Laugh at yourselves. Dance in the kitchen. Do something completely ordinary in an unexpectedly fun way. You don't need a luxury vacation to create a memory. Sometimes the best memories are created because two people were willing to be spontaneous. Maybe the meal you cooked together turned out terribly. Maybe you got lost somewhere. Maybe you both tried something new and failed. Years later, that failure might become one of your favorite memories. Why? Because the experience belongs to both of you. That's the power of shared experiences. They create a private history, a collection of moments that only the two of you fully understand. And this is where balance becomes important. A man can be disciplined without becoming rigid. He can be responsible without becoming boring. He can be serious about his future without taking every moment of life seriously. Knowing when to work and when to relax is part of maturity. Knowing when to be firm and when to laugh is part of wisdom. Life contains enough pressure already. Don't bring unnecessary heaviness into every moment of your relationship. Give each other reasons to smile. Give each other memories worth keeping, because eventually those memories become part of what makes a relationship feel like home. And while you're creating a life with someone else, don't forget to take care of yourself. Self-respect begins with how you treat yourself when nobody else is watching. Take care of your body. Take care of your mind. Take care of your environment. Take care of your goals. Take care of your finances. Take care of your emotional well-being. Not because you need to become perfect. Not because you need to impress a woman, but because your life deserves your attention. A man who constantly abandons himself for other people eventually loses his sense of direction. But a man who continues to develop himself builds self-trust. Every time you keep a promise you made to yourself, you become a little stronger. Every time you finish something you said you would finish, you build confidence. Every time you choose discipline over a temporary impulse, you strengthen your character. That's where confidence comes from. Not from pretending. Not from showing off. From knowing that you can rely on yourself. You don't need to look like a celebrity. You don't need expensive clothes. You don't need to become wealthy overnight. But you should care about the person you're becoming. Read. Exercise. Learn. Build. Improve. Rest when necessary. Work towards something meaningful. Protect your peace. Develop your mind. Because self-care isn't selfish when it comes from responsibility. It's a form of self-respect. And when you respect yourself, you become less desperate for external validation. You stop begging people to recognize your worth. You begin recognizing it yourself. That's a powerful transformation. But there is another level of connection that many men avoid because they misunderstand what strength really means. Emotional openness. Some men were taught that being strong means never admitting fear, never admitting pain, never saying, I don't know, never saying, I need help, never showing vulnerability. But emotional strength isn't the absence of emotion. It's the ability to understand and manage emotion without allowing it to control you. There is a difference between being overwhelmed by your feelings and being honest about them. A man can say, that hurt me. I'm worried about this. I've been under pressure. I miss you. I need your support. That doesn't automatically make him weak. Sometimes it takes enormous courage to speak honestly about what is happening inside you. When you open up responsibly, you're giving another person access to the real you. Not the image, not the performance, not the version of yourself you think everyone wants to see. The real person your hopes, your fears, your mistakes, your dreams, your struggles, your doubts, your victories. And that honesty creates intimacy. But emotional openness must still have maturity. You don't dump every emotion onto your partner and expect her to fix your life. You don't use vulnerability to manipulate her. You don't make her responsible for your emotional stability. Instead, you communicate honestly. You can say, I don't usually talk about this, but I trust you. I've been struggling with this lately. That situation made me insecure. Your support means more to me than you realize. Those statements can change the depth of a relationship because underneath them is a powerful message. I trust you enough to let you see me. And trust is one of the foundations of intimacy. A woman doesn't necessarily need a man who never struggles. She needs to know that there is a real human being behind the strength. A man can be strong and vulnerable, disciplined and emotional, confident and honest about his fears. The two aren't opposites. In fact, sometimes vulnerability is the proof that confidence is real. Because you can only reveal yourself when you don't believe that your imperfections destroy your worth. And perhaps the deepest form of love comes from being seen exactly as you are, not the fantasy, not the potential, not the version someone wants to create. You. Real love isn't about looking at someone and thinking, I can change her into what I want. It's about seeing who she actually is, her strengths, her weaknesses, her fears, her personality, her imperfections, her history, her dreams, and recognizing the human being underneath all of it. That doesn't mean accepting harmful behavior. It doesn't mean ignoring serious problems. It doesn't mean pretending that incompatibility doesn't exist. Acceptance doesn't mean abandoning your standards. It means you're not trying to redesign another human being simply because they don't fit your fantasy. You learn who they really are. And then you ask, can we build something healthy together? That's a much deeper question. Because the world constantly tells people that they need to become something else to deserve love. Be more attractive. Be more successful. Have more money. Look younger. Dress better. Become more impressive. But deep love isn't built on a permanent performance. Imagine being with someone who doesn't require you to wear a mask. Someone who can look at you and say, I know you're not perfect. I know you have flaws. And I still value you. That's powerful. When a woman feels truly accepted, she doesn't have to constantly perform for your approval. She can relax. She can breathe. She can laugh. She can be imperfect. She can admit when she's wrong. Or she can tell you when she's afraid. She can share the parts of herself she usually hides. And the same should be true for you. Because the strongest relationship isn't one where two perfect people meet. It's one where two imperfect people can be honest enough to grow together. So don't turn everything we've discussed into a strategy for making someone obsessed with you. That's not the lesson. If you're listening only because you want to get something from her, you're missing the point. If you're respectful only because you want her affection, that's not genuine respect. If you give her space because you want her to chase you, that's not confidence. If you support her dreams because you expect something in return, that's not love. And if you open up emotionally because you think vulnerability is a trick that guarantees attraction, you've misunderstood the entire idea. These qualities matter because they make you a better man. They make you more emotionally intelligent. They make you more disciplined. They make you more trustworthy. And they make your relationships healthier. So instead of asking, what can I do to make her fall for me? Ask a better question. What kind of man am I becoming? That question changes everything. Because when you become a man who listens deeply, respects consistently, controls himself, maintains his own identity, supports the person he loves, creates joy, takes care of himself, communicates honestly, and accepts another person without trying to possess them, you no longer need to depend on games. You become grounded. And grounded people create grounded relationships. Remember this, she doesn't need you to be perfect. And you don't need her to be perfect. You both need honesty. You both need respect. You both need trust. You both need patience. You both need affection. You both need laughter. And you both need the willingness to keep growing. Because love isn't proven in one dramatic moment. It's proven in ordinary moments. It's how you speak when you're tired. It's how you behave when you're angry. It's how you treat her when nobody else is watching. It's how you react when she succeeds. It's how you respond when she fails. It's how you handle disagreement. It's how you listen when she struggles to explain herself. Those moments reveal character. And character is what gives love stability. So if you want deeper connection, don't focus on becoming irresistible. Focus on becoming trustworthy. Become a man whose word means something. Become a man whose presence feels safe. Become a man who can lead himself before trying to lead anyone else. Become a man who doesn't need control because he has self-control. Become a man who can be strong without becoming cruel. Become a man who can be gentle without becoming weak. Become a man who can admit, I was wrong. Become a man who can say, I need help. Become a man who can say, I love you. And then make sure your actions support those words. Because that's real strength. Not being the loudest person in the room, not intimidating everyone around you, not demanding attention, not trying to control another human being. Real strength is having enough self-mastery to love someone without trying to own them. It's being able to give without begging. It's being able to listen without feeling weak. It's being able to lead without controlling. It's being able to be vulnerable without losing your identity. It's being able to walk beside a woman without asking her to become smaller so you can feel bigger. That's the kind of man worth becoming. And that's the kind of man capable of building a relationship that lasts. So don't spend your life trying to become the man every woman wants. Become the man whose character makes the right woman feel respected, understood, and safe. Become the man who doesn't need manipulation, doesn't need games, doesn't need constant validation. Because he knows his value. And because he knows his value, he can love without fear. He can give without desperation. He can listen without defensiveness. He can stand firm without becoming controlling. He can open his heart without abandoning his strength. And he can love another person while still remaining true to himself. That is the balance. That is the wisdom. That is the kind of strength the ancient Stoics were pointing toward when they spoke about self-mastery. Control what belongs to you. Your actions, your words, your reactions, your choices, your character. Don't waste your life trying to control another person's feelings. You can't force someone to love you. You can't manufacture genuine connection. You can't manipulate someone into giving you a healthy relationship. But you can become the kind of person who is capable of creating one. And that is where the real transformation begins. So take care of yourself. Strengthen your mind. Discipline your habits. Build your purpose. Learn how to listen. Learn how to communicate. Learn how to respect. Learn how to give space. Learn how to support someone without controlling them. Learn how to laugh. Learn how to be serious when seriousness is necessary. Learn how to be vulnerable when honesty requires it. And above all, learn how to see another person for who they truly are. Because attraction may begin with appearance, but deep connection is built through character. A smile may get your attention. Chemistry may bring two people together, but trust gives them a reason to stay. Respect gives them a reason to remain open. Shared memories give them something to look back on. And character gives the relationship something strong enough to survive difficult seasons. So if there is someone special in your life, don't ask yourself only whether she loves you. Ask yourself something deeper. Am I giving her a reason to feel safe with me? Am I listening? Am I respecting her? Am I supporting her growth? Am I allowing her to remain herself? Am I taking care of myself? Am I honest about who I am? Am I becoming better? Because the quality of your relationship will often reflect the quality of the character you bring into it. And that is something you can work on every single day. You don't have to transform overnight. You don't have to become perfect. You simply have to become a little more intentional, a little more patient, a little more disciplined, a little more honest, a little more present. And over time, those small improvements become character. Character becomes identity, and identity shapes the life you build. So remember this final thought. The goal isn't to make a woman melt because you've discovered some secret psychological trick. The goal is to become a man whose presence naturally creates warmth, trust, respect, and peace. A man who can make her laugh. A man who can hear what she isn't even able to say. A man who respects her individuality. A man who supports her dreams. A man who can give her room without insecurity. A man who takes care of himself. A man who isn't afraid to reveal his humanity. A man who sees her beyond appearance, status, or expectations. That kind of man doesn't need to chase love desperately. He understands that love isn't something you force. It's something you build, moment by moment, choice by choice, action by action. And when two people are willing to do that together, something much deeper than attraction begins to form. A partnership, a friendship, a bond, a shared life, a place where both people can grow without losing themselves. So become that man, not for attention, not for approval, not simply to make someone fall in love with you. Become that man because your own life deserves it. Master yourself, strengthen yourself, respect yourself, build yourself, and then bring that stronger version of yourself into the relationships you create. Because real strength isn't about controlling another person's heart. It's about becoming worthy of the trust someone places in yours. And when you understand that, you stop chasing the illusion of irresistible attraction and start building something much more valuable, something real, something peaceful, something honest, something that can last. Stay strong, stay disciplined, stay wise. And remember, attraction may capture attention, but character is what creates connection. Chemistry may begin the story, but trust is what keeps it alive. And the man who masters himself becomes capable of building the kind of love that doesn't need games to survive. That is the wisdom. That is the work. And that is the man you should become.